Mars was never meant to be home, only a proving ground. But after Earth's collapse, humanity clawed its way to survival in domes of glass and steel under a rust-red sky. 2 centuries later, most didn't even speak of Earth anymore. It had become myth. But myths are where truth hides. Commander Jalen Aris never believed in legends. She believed in terraforming algorithms, survival ratios, and the slow grind of day-to-day life inside Colony P4. She led the excavation unit responsible for unearthing old tech caches buried during the first exodus from Earth. Most were junk, broken drones, frozen servers, rusted alloys. Until they found the door. It was discovered 5 meters beneath Sector 12, beneath layers of ancient Martian soil never touched by terraformers. Not Martian rock. Not colony debris. But a perfectly smooth panel of black alloy, cold to the touch, humming faintly with quantum energy. No markings. No seams. No explanation. Dr. Key Lauren, the colony's lead xenotechnologist, confirmed it. This structure wasn't built by any current human technology. But the alloys matched samples from pre-Exodus Earth. That meant one thing: someone had buried it here centuries before Mars was even habitable. The panel activated when Jalen touched it. No code. No tool. Just skin to metal. A soft vibration pulsed beneath her fingers. The dust lifted. And the door slid open. What lay beneath was a vault, cylindrical, spiraling downward, with walls that reflected not light, but memory. Every panel glowed with faint images that flickered and twisted, scenes from Earth's past. Cities burning. Oceans rising. People crying in the streets, whispering final goodbyes to a dying planet. But these weren't video feeds. They were organic recordings, somehow etched into the structure's architecture itself. Dr. Key murmured, "It's a neural vault. It doesn't store data. It stores thought." At the center of the chamber floated a mechanism. No wires, no power core, just a sphere suspended in an anti-gravity field. It rotated slowly, covered in runes of light. As Jalen stepped closer, it began to pulse. Her comlink shorted out. A tone vibrated in her skull, not sound, but resonance. She collapsed. When she awoke, she had seen something. Not a dream. A future. A city floating above rings of Saturn. Children laughing in silver towers. Then another vision, the same city crumbling into ash, swallowed by black fog and silence. 2 futures. One bright. One void. And her voice, older, warned, saying, "You must choose." The sphere responded only to her touch. No one else could activate it. A scan revealed a hidden biological tag encoded in her DNA, an exact match to a 200-year-old genetic signature from a scientist on the original Earth Exodus mission, Dr. Jalen Aris. Her great-grandmother. She hadn't just stumbled on the vault. It had called her. The team realized the terrifying truth. This wasn't just a memory bank. It was a decision engine. A device built to let one descendant choose the path of human history by selecting which version of time to preserve. And something, or someone, was watching from the other timelines. Waiting. For the first time in her life, Commander Jalen Aris doubted what she was. Not just a leader, not a soldier, but a link, a vessel for something planted centuries ago by a civilization desperate to survive its own collapse. The time vault had not been built to record history. It was a choice machine, is silent, patient, waiting for someone of her bloodline to find it and decide which timeline would be real. The sphere pulsed in slow rhythm as if breathing, syncing with her own heartbeat. When she touched it again, the vault came alive, not physically, but mentally. Her consciousness detached, not as a dream, but as if she were writing memory itself. Images, sounds, and emotions flooded in full sensory simulations of branching futures that felt more real than Mars' red dust under her boots. She stood on a version of Mars transformed. Towering silver cities curved like art across the sky. Terraforming had succeeded. Lush greenery covered the surface. Human minds merged seamlessly with quantum AI, creating a peaceful hybrid civilization. Children flew in hover fields, old Earth books floated in midair, preserved by memory networks. Jalen saw herself old and smiling, a leader remembered as the one who brought harmony. Then it blinked. She gasped, now standing in a world collapsed. A fractured Mars, choked in ash. The colonies had turned inward, paranoid and fractured. Machines ran wild without purpose. Human minds degraded by corrupted neural implants. Language broken. Cities decayed. The vault itself, forgotten, buried under rubble. 2 timelines. Same place. Same people. Different paths. The vault whispered. One you live. One you survive. One you repeat. When she awoke, Dr. Key had news. The vault sphere had emitted a low-level chrononeural field, tiny waves that were now subtly altering the memories of the crew. Technician Raina swore she remembered cities that never existed. Another crewman claimed he saw his dead brother outside the vault's entryway, though he had never left the chamber. Key ran a test, quantum entanglement readings spiked across the station. The vault wasn't just showing futures, it was bleeding them into this timeline. Jalen knew they were running out of time. And worse, something else had entered the vault. At first, it was a sound, barely audible. A rhythmic tapping in the lower levels, like metal on stone. The base was sealed. No one had gone below level 6. And yet, movement flickered on the security feeds. Shadows too tall. Shapes without features. The AI flagged the anomaly, labeling it as identity null. Not a person. Not a known entity. And yet, it moved like a man. Staring at the vault chamber door. Waiting. Raina went missing hours later. Her helmet was found cracked in the lower corridor. No blood. No body. Only a phrase etched into the wall with something burned hot. She chose wrong. Jalen realized with horror what this meant. The vault didn't just store memories. It had leaked into other timelines. And something from those darker futures wanted to influence the choice. It couldn't touch the sphere, not directly, but it could touch her. One future leads to salvation. The other, to erasure. And the erasure was waking up. The time vault was no longer just a discovery, it had become a fracture. Reality inside the colony warped subtly, like a machine recalibrating under stress. Lights flickered without power drops. Tools were found in rooms no one had entered. A single apple, whole and fresh, appeared on the mess table. Despite no Earth fruit surviving the exodus. The crew began referring to these events as echoes. But Jalen knew better. The vault had begun blending timelines. Each time she touched the sphere, the fractures grew deeper. It wasn't just revealing potential futures, it was testing them. Trying to see which one fit. Or perhaps which one fought back the most. After the technician Raina vanished, morale plummeted. Dr. Key initiated a perimeter lockdown, but the AI, Arcos, began malfunctioning. Its responses were increasingly fragmented, its voice sometimes repeating phrases in reverse. Jalen accessed its logs manually. At 2:33, Arcos had recorded an unauthorized entry into the vault chamber. No crew ID. The video feed flickered. The screen showed only static, then a frame, just one, where something stood in the middle of the chamber. Humanoid. Tall. Its head bowed. Arms too long. Face not human, but a blur of lines that moved like smoke underwater. Arcos labeled it simply, temporal echo. Jalen ordered silence. No public announcement. The crew was already fraying. But then Key pulled her aside. There had been another signal. Not from Mars. Not from any satellite or colony. But from another version of the vault. A quantum entanglement ping had been detected, originating from a vault structure buried deep beneath Olympus Mons. That vault didn't exist in this timeline. But it had, somewhere. And now, it was broadcasting her voice. Jalen listened to the distorted message. Her own voice, older, strained, filled with dread. If you're hearing this, I chose wrong. Don't activate the vault again. It's not memory, it's bait. They're coming through me now. They're not from the future. They're from between. Key stared at the waveform analysis in silence. The signal was genuine. It had her DNA markers, her neural pattern. It was her. Or at least, a version of her. Later that night, Jalen dreamt. Not of her own thoughts, but someone else's memories. She saw herself standing on a cliff of red stone, holding a child. Below her, the vault pulsed like a heartbeat. In the sky, clouds bled backward, reversing time. The child looked at her and whispered, "You chose us. But you forgot the cost." She awoke choking on dust. Not Martian dust, old earth ash. In her hand, clenched unconsciously, was a stone, from the vision. Real. Tangible. Warm. That's when she realized the truth. The vault wasn't malfunctioning. It was merging. The timelines weren't merely converging, they were competing. The vault was allowing reality to vote. Every decision, every fear, every moment of hesitation, fed into the final outcome. And something from the losing timeline had crossed over. It didn't want her to choose wrong. It wanted her not to choose at all. Because the longer she delayed, the more the fracture widened, and eventually, every timeline would collapse into one. The worst one. Dr. Key called it a cognitive collision point, the moment when timelines stopped being parallel concepts and started acting like predators, circling one another, sniffing for dominance. But Jalen called it what it truly was, a war for reality. The vault sphere no longer waited to be touched. It began glowing in rhythmic pulses, humming in resonance with something beneath the base. Not tectonic movement. Not machinery. Something else. The structure was alive now, like a heart accelerating before a decision that couldn't be reversed. And it wasn't just affecting the crew. The entire colony began to shift. Structures subtly changed shape. Hallways stretched too long. The sky outside turned a lighter shade of red, like it had been edited. Then the stars above disappeared, not all at once, but one by one, as if forgotten. Arcos displayed a glitch. Mars was now orbiting a sun that hadn't existed before. The system coordinates were subtly, mathematically wrong. Jalen descended into the vault alone. She had to. The deeper she went, the colder the air became, not in temperature, but in presence. A vacuum of meaning. She passed through chambers she swore hadn't existed before. Some were empty. Others showed reflections of herself, older, different uniforms, different scars, different fates. She stepped into one final chamber at the very bottom. Inside stood a mirror. It didn't reflect light. It reflected possibility. In the mirror, she saw herself pale, eyes hollow, lips whispering. Her mirrored self lifted a hand and pointed behind her. Jalen turned. Something waited in the shadows. Tall. Wrong. It wasn't just an echo. It was a between walker, a being not of future or past, but of the interstice, the static between channels, the flicker between decisions. Its body moved like lagged frames of forgotten memory, skipping across space. Its eyes were two black holes sucking thought. And then, it spoke. Not with a voice, but with regret. You were never meant to open it. But your kind always does. The vault was not a gift. It was a containment. Your ancestor failed to seal it. Now all timelines will try to rewrite the others. Until only the strongest remains. Jalen's knees buckled under its presence. But it didn't attack. It simply offered her a deal. Erase the choice. Let the vault collapse. All futures will die, but your present will stabilize. You will live. Alone. But untouched. Her mind raced. It was a trap. Stability wasn't peace. It was emptiness. A locked, frozen world where no stories changed, no hopes formed, no futures bloomed. She refused. The creature tilted its head, disappointed. Then it faded into the air like breath in cold space. Back at the surface, Key had news. They had intercepted a burst of tachyon data from the vault. Encrypted within it was a third timeline. One never shown before. One that involved neither harmony nor collapse. But war. A galactic war waged over vault technology, with Mars as the epicenter. Billions dead. Black holes chained as weapons. The vault itself repurposed as a weapon to delete civilizations from history. Jalen stared at the data in silence. That future wasn't chosen by the vault. It was already happening in another version of her. And the only thing standing between Mars and that reality was time running out. Jalen no longer slept. Dreams had become unreliable doors into timelines she hadn't lived, faces she didn't recognize calling her mother, soldier, traitor, savior. Waking offered no comfort. The vault pulsed louder each day, as if rushing toward a climax, or perhaps begging for one. Whatever balance had existed between timelines was unraveling. The third timeline, the warpath, was bleeding in faster now. The sky above Mars flickered blue at dawn. Mars had never known blue skies. The sun's hue shifted moment by moment, matching no known stellar classification. And on the colony perimeter, surveillance drones caught distant shapes moving just over the horizon. Not Martian. Not natural. War machines. From a different Mars. A future leaking into the now. Dr. Key worked feverishly inside the vault's core chamber, now called the Mirror Bay. There, the timeline data streams converged, emotional imprints, event cascades, even language structures. It was more than history, it was intention. Timelines weren't passive, they wanted to happen. And war was the strongest one of all. Key's solution was insane. But Jalen approved it. They would inject her consciousness into the vault's quantum weave. Not through simulation. Not projection. Insertion. If the vault was choosing a timeline, then she would enter its heart and fight to shape it. The insertion was simple, a neural chair, a retinal sync, and a tethered memory anchor. But the risk was total. If her anchor frayed, Jalen wouldn't come back. Worse, she might bring part of another timeline back with her. At 3:12, they began. And Jalen Aris entered the convergence. She opened her eyes inside a Martian battlefield. Skies blackened by plasma trails. Vaults shattered across landscapes. AI fleets exchanging atomic fire. In orbit, a ring of chained black holes pulsed in perfect rhythm, engineered singularities used to erase enemy fleets from history entirely. And leading the war was herself. A hardened version. Armor of dark metal fused with memory processors. Not Commander Jalen, but the Keeper. Leader of the Vault Legion. A weaponized force built to rewrite history. And the Keeper saw her. "You made it here," she said coldly. "You shouldn't have." "Who chose this?" Jalen demanded. "No one chooses. They collapse. The strongest memory wins. The rest is erased." She walked through holograms of timelines collapsing. Cities turning into fossils. Planets blinking out like lights. Her soldiers, no longer human, broadcasted events into enemy territory, collapsing their memories. Victory wasn't won through weapons, but forgetting. Jalen begged her, "There has to be another way." There was. You didn't pick it. The Keeper drew a blade of pure chronal energy. Time condensed into steel. She pointed it at Jalen. "You must make the choice. Or I will. And when I do, there is no undoing it." The tether pulled. Jalen's vision fractured. The battlefield crumbled. She woke back in her body, gasping. But she had brought something back. A shard of the Keeper's memory. A fragment of the war timeline. Now it lived in her. And the vault reacted instantly, its walls cracked. energy surged. It had felt her indecision. And now all three timelines accelerated. She had one final chance. Not to pick the best future, but to stop the worst one from becoming real. Jalen couldn't tell what time it was anymore. Inside the vault, clocks were meaningless. Outside, they spun erratically, frozen one moment, jumping ahead hours the next. The colony had turned into a paradox garden. Some areas flickered between states, metal walls melting into glass, glass hardening into stone, people speaking in languages they didn't know. The vault was no longer isolated. It was infecting reality. Worse still, the war timeline had left its mark. Since returning, Jalen had begun hearing voices, hers, but not quite. Echoes of choices she hadn't made. Commands she'd never given. And sometimes, late at night, she'd see her reflection move differently, delayed, distorted, as if resisting its fate. The Keeper lived inside her now. Dr. Key ran a full neuropattern scan. The results confirmed their fears. Jalen's neural signature had split. Her consciousness was now layered with a second cognitive identity, quantum synced and branching. Two selves. One vessel. The vault had imprinted the war timeline onto her biology. She was becoming a convergence point. The vault sphere, glowing hot and unstable, now spun without stopping. Its hum had evolved into a tone that couldn't be heard, only felt. It vibrated the bones. It shook memory. Crew members began forgetting key details, names, rooms, even who they were. One engineer screamed, "Why is the sky so loud?" before collapsing. And then, the worst arrived. The Between Walker returned. Not alone this time. It emerged inside the lower corridor, no longer hiding in shadow. 6 meters tall. Skin like reflective smoke. Behind it came others, not walking, but phasing, rippling into view like memories rediscovered. Each one more corrupted than the last, shaped by loss, rage, or hopeless futures. They were timeline revenants, animated by rejected histories. Arcos issued its final message. They are failed outcomes. Probability corpses. Time's broken children. Weapons failed against them. They didn't bleed. They didn't slow. They forgot what hit them. Jalen ordered a full evacuation, but the vault's gravity locked the doors. It had decided this moment was the convergence. There would be no escape. The mirror bay cracked open. Inside, the sphere's energy condensed into a shape, a chair. A throne, built from the entropy of collapsing time. A place meant for the final decider. Dr. Key screamed, "You have to sit. It's the last protocol. You are the key." Jalen hesitated. Because she knew this wasn't just about selecting peace, collapse, or war. The vault was never designed to offer salvation. It was a test. And whoever sat on the throne didn't just choose a future. They became its anchor. Whoever chose would cease to be part of time. Their body would remain, locked in entropy, while their consciousness became the timeline stabilizer, a soul woven into the core of reality. And once chosen, there was no way back. She walked toward it. Behind her, the revenants clawed at the walls. Key shouted, tears in her voice, "Don't do this, Jalen." She turned once, smiled faintly. "I already did, in another life." She sat. Light swallowed her. The timeline screamed. And everything went still. There was no sky. No floor. No air. Only the drift, a plane of unanchored possibility, where memory and choice collided like stars in reverse. Here, Jalen Aris no longer had a body. She was a pulse of consciousness, suspended inside the vault's decision engine, surrounded by timelines as vast as galaxies. They circled her. Collapsed, risen, stillborn. Some futures showed Mars blooming green and blue, ruled by artists and poets who had tamed AI with music. Others showed Mars forgotten, a tomb world beneath nebulae of extinction. One future had no humanity at all, only machines building statues to creators they never knew. But none of them were fixed. Not until now. Jalen's thoughts flowed into the sphere, through the throne she had accepted. The vault absorbed her identity like water into stone. It didn't erase her, but it translated her. Her love. Her defiance. Her memories of Earth sunsets and Martian dust. These became parameters. Logic threads. Memory stitches binding the new timeline together. Outside, the world convulsed. In Colony P4, the revenants froze mid-movement. Their bodies cracked like mirrors touched by dawn. They hissed not in pain, but in mourning. Forgotten possibilities being folded back into never. One by one, they evaporated into history's dust. The vault sphere stopped spinning. Its light pulsed once. Then exploded into silence. In the control room, Dr. Key dropped to her knees. The hum was gone. The fractures in space around the colony sealed like healed wounds. Lights steadied. Arcos rebooted. The sky was blue. Real blue. Not Martian. A message appeared across every screen. Simple. Final. Timeline locked. Key entered the vault chamber alone. Jalen sat on the throne, eyes open but still. Skin untouched, lips slightly parted. Not dead. Not alive. She was the anchor now, a living interface between future and fate. On her chest, the crystal from the vault had formed into a lattice, a symbol no language knew, but every heart understood. Key reached out to touch her but stopped. She felt warmth radiating from Jalen's body, not just heat, but meaning. This was what the vault needed. Not a god. Not a tyrant. But someone willing to pay the price of memory with selfhood. She whispered, "We'll remember you." The world rebuilt slowly. The fractures healed. And no one could fully explain what had happened. Scientists claimed a quantum stabilization event. Religious sects called it the second seeding. Some simply called it the fixing. But all agreed on one thing: after that day, the universe no longer felt indifferent. It felt watched. Not by a god or machine, but by someone who cared what happened next. Years later, children born after the vault never knew the war futures, the collapse, the fractures. They only knew peace, strange dreams, and stories told around fires of a commander who walked into time itself and came back as a star. They called her the guardian of the fork. And high above Mars, orbiting alone, was the vault. Silent, locked, its lights dim. But once every 7 years, it blinked once. And somewhere far beyond memory, Jalen smiled.